Hello everybody and welcome to our virtual infinite educational program, which is going to be based on Overdue Textbook Series Grade 12. Today's lesson is a revision for Module 3. I'm going to deal with 3 different units, Units 7, 8, and 9, which you are going to be tested on. If you are interested in my lesson, please keep watching our channel. I will meet you after the break. Dear students, welcome back to my class. As you can see here, I'm going to deal with Module 3. But before that, let's have an idea about the types of questions that you will meet or encounter in your third period exam. In your third period exam, you will have such questions as, the first one is about vocabulary, in which you will be tested on 2 different questions. The first one is multiple choice, and the second one is gap filling. Then you will have a task about grammar, again, 2 tasks. The first one is multiple choice, and the second one is productive questions, in which you are going to answer a question about do as shown. Then you will have a question about language functions. You will have only 1 question. You are going to respond to a certain number of situations. Then you will have a question about set book. Here you are going to be tested on some questions about overdue textbook and some questions about your literature time, which is Great Expectations, written by Charles Dickens. Then you will deal with only 1 topic, writing, which is composition. It's generally semi-related to the topics that you have already seen with your teachers in class. Then you will have a reading comprehension question, which includes 3 different questions. The first one is multiple choice, the second one is a productive question, and the third question is summary making. The last question is translation, in which you are going to be tested on 2 different types of translation. You will have 2 questions. The first one is translating an English paragraph from your reading comprehension passage into Arabic language, of course. And the second question, you are going to be provided with 2 sentences taken from your textbooks in order to be translated from Arabic to English language. Let's start by vocabulary. The first question of vocabulary is the following. Choose the correct answer from A, B, C, and D. You are going to be provided with 4 stems. That means 4 sentences. Every correct answer will be allotted 3.5, so the total mark is 14. Let's start with the first sentence. Have a look here. I think you a rest after this hard work. Here we have 4 distractors: promote, deserve, bestow, and conceal. According now to the context of the sentence and to some clues like this, okay, arrest, your answer should be deserve. That's it. Very good. Let's move now to the second sentence. Underprivileged areas are full of houses that need to be demolished. The distractors are restful, competent, astounded, and substandard. Here we have to focus on some clues. Underprivileged areas, which means very poor areas, and demolished, which means completely destroyed. In this case, you have to choose a word that goes in meanings, as you can see here, with the context of the sentence. So your answer should be substandard, which means below the original norm. Let's move now to sentence number 3. Before leaving, we have a space here for your coat, or you will get cold. So what you have to do here is to choose a word that goes with the context of the sentence and which has a close relation to coat. Do you do up coat, or put to coat, or make up coat, or bump into coat? Think about it. Okay, very good. So your answer is do up your coat, which means to fasten. The last sentence in the multiple choice question is the following. In Beit Ludan, where the old and new mix, and we need here an adverb, is a successful community center. These are the options, vice versa, frequently, seamlessly, or customarily. Here we have to focus on the word mix. We are going to describe the word mix. How do they mix? They mix seamlessly. That means in a smooth way. Let's move now to task number 2. Fill in the spaces with words from the list. You are going to provide it with 5 words. You are going to use only 4. Every correct question will be allotted 2.5, so the mark is out of 10. Let's have a look at the words. Always before answering, try to define, okay, the part of speech of every word in order to make it easier for you to decide on the right gap or space in the task. For example, you should know that chronic is an adjective, densely is an adverb, whereas is a conjunction, narrates is a verb, and excuse is a noun. Why is this important? Because if you focus on the boundaries of the sentence, you can decide on the appropriate word in a very easy way. Let's take an example. For example, I've never known him to miss a meeting. I'm sure he will have an. This indefinite article is extremely important. Why? Because all of you know that after this indefinite article, we need a singular noun. If we know that we have only one noun in this group of words, so it's easy to decide on the correct one, which is excuse. Whenever you are sure about your answer, try to cross out the word in order to concentrate on the remaining ones. Let's move now to the following sentence. The old communication system was fairly simple. And here we have a blank. The new system is very complicated. As you can see here, we have a kind of comparison or contrast between old communication system and the new system. So we need a word to link these two ideas, which are in fact contrasting, okay, to convey the appropriate meaning. The word, of course, is preceded by a semicolon, which is extremely important, and followed by a comma. The only word that requires this kind of punctuation is the word whereas. Again, we have to cross the word and we move on. Sentence number 7, Cairo is the most, and here we have a blank, populated city in the Arab world. As you can see here, in this sentence, we don't need any compelling element, which is necessary element to get a good sentence. It is a good sentence and it is a very cohesive sentence, so we don't need any word. In this case, most of the time, when the sentence is complete and we don't need any other words, most of the time we need an adverb. For example, we can say Cairo is the most densely populated city in the Arab world. We cross the word and we move on. The last sentence is the following. The main character, and we have a blank, this story is the 3 men in a boat. Of course, here we have character, who is a subject here. The personal pronoun is he or she, but in this case, in 3 men in a boat, the character who narrates, of course, the story is a male. Now that we have done with this exercise, let's move now to grammar. The first question says, choose the correct answer from A, B, C, and D. You will have 4 items. Every item is allotted 2.5 marks. So the total mark for task number 1 in grammar is 10 marks. Okay, so sentence number 9. My car repaired yesterday. Here in this sentence, we have to look for a clue that may help us. The word is yesterday, of course, and if you know that yesterday is always used in a context which means the past, we have to use a verb in the past. So we have had, have, will have, and am having. Your answer is had, of course. Now let's move. My grandmother needs constant attention, is cared for by my mother. As you can see here, we have a complex sentence consisting of two clauses. The first one is my grandmother is cared for by my mother. This is the independent clause. And we have a dependent clause in the middle, preceded by a comma and followed by another comma, which makes it unrestrictive relative clause. So if we go back now to the dependent clause, here we have what we call in English finite verb. We need a word that goes back to grandmother and which is followed by a verb. And if we know that my grandmother is a human being, so we have to use the relative pronoun who. Let's move now to sentence number 11. My father and my mother prefer living in the countryside. Here we have four options: as, so, both, and neither. Again, we have to go back to the sentence to look for a cue or a clue. This is the most important part in the sentence. Why? Because through this word, we can decide which is the right answer. Of course, we have and. The only word that goes with and is both. So the answer is both my father and my mother prefer. Let's move to the following word, the following sentence. Most learners feel working in groups than working individually. We have the word confident, more confident, most confident, the most confident. Again, here we have to look for clues to help us. Here we have the word than. So it's clear that we are talking about a comparison. And since we know that you have a long adjective, which is confident, repeated every time, so we have to use the comparative form, which is more confident than. Let's move now to the second question in grammar, which is do as shown between brackets. We have two items. Every item is allotted 5 marks, so the total mark is 10. As you can see here, we have direct speech sentence. Have you got anything to declare? Of course, these words or this sentence is said by a customs officer. So we have to start our sentence with the customs officer asked the passenger. And since we know that this is a question and it is a yes or no question, we have to put in mind that it must start with if or whether. Now, the sentence starts with an auxiliary verb, which is have. Why is it auxiliary? Because it is followed by past participle of the verb get, which is got here. So we have to change the place of the auxiliary verb after the subject. Why? In order to get rid of the question mark, because questions are not allowed in reported speech sentences or in reported sentences. So the order should be like this. If you have, then we have to change the tense of the verb, which is here present perfect, into past perfect by changing have into had. So the answer of your sentence should be like this. The customs officer asked the passenger if he had got anything to declare. Now let's move to the following sentence. I rarely have such a good chance to improve my English. You are here asked to complete the sentence. Why? Because you are provided with the negative adverb, which is rarely. So since we start with rarely, we have to get rid of it from the original sentence and focus on this have. It could be an auxiliary verb as well as a simple verb. Okay? Now, focus here, the word have or the verb have is not followed by past participle form. So we have to make sure that this is a verb. It's not an auxiliary verb. In this case, we have to think of the following. We have to split it into two parts. We have to bring a helping verb or an auxiliary verb and give the verb have after it. In this case, you have to leave space for another word, which is extremely important, the word I. So here we have, rarely do I have such a good chance to improve my English. All these parts, all these changes are necessary in order to answer a question about inversion. Now let's move now to another task, which is language functions. Let's have a look at the question. Write what you would say in the following situations. Make sure that the word say is extremely important. It's not what you would do, it's say. And here in front of situations to which you have to respond. You will have 4 utterances or 4 situations. Every situation is allotted 5 marks, so the total mark is 20. Let's have a look at the first sentence. Your friend argues that modern technology is harmful to us. What is your role here is to respond to what your friend has already said as if your friend were in front of you. Okay? Don't say I would tell or I will tell to my friend. No, say it automatically. So in this case, since he argues, you have, for example, to respond by agreeing with him. You may say, I agree with you, or I totally agree with you. Or you may say, I don't agree with you, or I disagree with you. Or you can just express your opinion, for example, by saying, I think, or I reckon, or according to me, or as far as I'm concerned, okay, and so on. You can look here, we have a lot of options to respond to utterances. The main thing here is to focus on the context and to give something that matches this situation you have in front of you. So your answer could be one of these 3 possibilities: expressing things by saying thank you very much, or expressing gratitude by saying, for example, I'm extremely grateful to you because you are helping me, or just asking for extra information about the homework or about the things that you haven't attended in class. Let's have a look at the following. Somebody asked you about the role of Beit Ludan in the Kuwaiti cultural life. For example, you can express a contrast by contrasting the role of this cultural place in the past and now. Or you may give some historical information. Or you may compare the past and the present, just comparison. Let's have a look at the last sentence. A taxi driver does not follow the traffic rules. For example, he breaks the rules. So what is your role here, or what is your response to him? Giving advice, you may advise him by saying you should, or I advise you, or it's better for you. Expressing obligation by saying you must, or you have. Or by warning. Why? Because he has broken the laws. Now let's move to the 4th part of our revision, which is set book. Let's have a look at questions related to the topics that you have seen with your teachers related to Units 7, 8, and 9. Answer only 2 out of these questions. So you are going to be provided with 3 questions, 2 obligatory questions, and 1 optional. But we always advise our learners to answer all the questions, and it's up to us to choose the best. In meaningful sentences, of course, avoid to give chunks or avoid to give words. You have to give full sentences in order to get good marks. My first question is the following. Why is it rare to find geriatric homes in Kuwait and in the Arab world? Of course, geriatric homes are homes which are made in order to receive old people, okay, who lack people who care for them. This is my answer. You may have other answers, and here I'd like to advise you to use pieces of information from your textbook, but you can have an access to the internet to be fruitful and give other possible answers. It is rare to find geriatric homes in Kuwait and in the Arab world because our societies are regulated by the teachings of Islam. In fact, our religion urges us to respect the elderly, show them compassion, be grateful to them, and be at their service due to their old ages. As you can see here, I have used some linkers or some cohesive devices in order to give my paragraph, in fact, a kind of cohesion, and to show to those who are reading my answer that I am linking the sentences to get a good, very easy, and manageable paragraph. Let's move to the following question. Why do some people leave their homes in the countryside to live in the city? A lot of people are obliged or are urged to leave their homeland, for example, to live in another place. Let's have a look at the factors. Most of those people leave their homes to look for better living conditions. Furthermore, they believe that their chances to get a well-paid job are much higher in cities. Again, here, I'm trying to link sentences together to have a very manageable and cohesive paragraph. These are only suggestions. You may give other factors. The following question, what roles do cultural centers play in societies? For example, Beit Ludan is one of the most famous cultural centers in Kuwait. A lot of people go there, for example, to do some activities. This is my possible answer. Cultural centers play very important roles in everyday life. For example, they are successful community centers where people gather and socialize. They may make new acquaintances, new friends, for example. Besides, they provide shelters for creativity, arts, and crafts. It's a good place for people who are gifted to, for example, expound their arts in these places. Moreover, they serve as arts galleries and sites for musical concerts. Now let's move to literature time. Here we have Great Expectations, written by Charles Dickens. You will have two questions, and you have to answer only one. So the question says, answer only one out of these two questions in meaningful sentences. You have only one item. It's allotted 4 marks, so the total mark is 4. How can some social norms hinder communication between people? The level of education, for example, or the financial situation of some people may influence their personality and hinders their relation with others. Let's have a look at the answer. Social norms, such as people's educational levels and financial situations, may sometimes cause hatred and hinder communication between people. This is only a suggestion, and as you can see here, it's a question of general nature, okay? So don't worry about the details that you have in your book or in your novel. The last question in set book is the following. How should people consider manual work? Okay? The answer is, manual work is to be respected and equally appreciated like intellectual work. It is an honest and decent way for making a living. Now, this is the first part of my lesson. I have dealt with vocabulary, grammar, language functions, and set book. I hope that you keep watching our channel. I'll see you after the break. Welcome back to my lesson. So far, we have dealt with vocabulary, grammar, language functions, and set book. Now, we are going to deal with composition, reading comprehension, summary making, and translation. Now, let's start by task 1. The composition question is allotted 30 marks. this is the type of composition that I'm going to deal with. In this kind of composition, which is graphic organizers, you are not required to give an outline. The 30 marks is totally allotted to your writing. So don't deal with any kind of outline in graphic organizers. My graphic organizer today is called Scale-Line Graph. As you can see here, this is the topic. Looking for ways to save money, Salim tracked the amount of money he spent on eating out. Here we have three main parts that you have to deal with in your introduction. These are, the first one is the graph title, which is extremely important. Why is it important? Because it is always at the top of the graph, in which you are going to use in order to make at least one sentence. And it gives you an overall view or an all-over of the topic that you are dealing with. Then we have two axes, right? They, again, give you information on certain kind of information in your talk. These are the two axes. The first gives you data groups, and the second gives you amounts, frequency of data groups. So these are the three parts that you have to describe. You are not allowed to analyze anything in your introduction. You are going to describe three main things: the title and the two axes. Then we have the lines and the dots. They are extremely important. Why? Because we are going to deal with them in the body of your composition. They give you basic information, okay, and they have to be described and analyzed. Okay? Why? Because this is called analytical kind of writing. So this is the question. Write a 12-sentence report, okay, which are about 140 words, about the graph below. The topic again, looking for ways to save money, Salim tracked the amount of money he spent on eating out. And I'll show you how committed I am in describing, only describing in the introduction. This is my suggestion. The graph above shows the expenditure of Salim on eating out over a period of time. The graph illustrates the amount of money ranging from $50 to $90. As for the period of time, it ranges between June and October. As you can see here, I haven't analyzed anything. I'm just describing the chart. Then I'll move now to the body, and you will notice the kind of language which is completely different. We notice that, now we are going to analyze. We notice that Salim's expenditures on eating out are variable. Why? Because he sometimes spent $70, some other times he spent $75, $80, $90. So that's why they are variable. The least amount, here you have to start by the two axes, the least, okay, and the highest amount. The least amount he spent was in August, as there was a decline at the level of his expenditures in this month. However, starting from August, we noticed that there was an increase that reaches its peak in October. Let's continue then. As the graph indicates, Salim's expenditures went up sharply to reach the peak in October. In fact, in August, he spends $55, while in October, he spends $90. Now, we'd like to conclude. Summarizing the findings, which are the pieces of information that we have described and analyzed, it can be seen that Salim's expenditures vary a lot in August and October, as his expenditures approximately doubled. Why? Because he spent in August about $55. On the other hand, he spent about $90 in October. So there is approximately doubled. On the other hand, in June, July, and September, they did not vary much. Why? Because the amounts are near each other's. After composition, let's move now to reading comprehension. In reading comprehension passages, you will a long passage consisting of, let's say, 350 to 400 words. Why? Because it includes a summary-making question. Now, in the reading comprehension, we always advise our learners to read the questions first. So let's have a look at the questions. The first one is, from A, B, C, and D, choose the correct answer. You have 4 items. Every item is allotted 4.5 marks. So the first task is allotted 18 marks. This is the first question. What is the best title for the passage? You are always provided with 4 options, and it's up to you to choose the correct option according to the context of the reading passage. The second question is, what is the synonym of shrinking in paragraph 1? Of course, you may not know the meaning of to shrink or shrinking, but through context, through the information which precedes the word and which comes after the word, you can understand the meaning. The third question is the following. What does the word there in paragraph 3 refers to? Again, through the context, you can decide on the reference word. The last question in the multiple choice is, where has the original idea of the invention come from? So it's clear here that we are going to talk about an invention. The second type of question is the following. Answer the following questions referring to the text. Don't bring any information from outside the passage because it is a reading comprehension passage. We will have 3 questions. Every question is allotted 4 marks, so the total mark is 12 marks. Let's have a look, an idea about the questions in order to have an overall idea about the context of the reading before dealing with it. What are the components of the new invention? So the new invention is made up of certain materials, for example, or options, so you are asked to say them or write them down. What kind of health problems will the new invention solve? The last question is, what is the only disadvantage of the new invention? So the new invention has a lot of advantages, but it has only one disadvantage. So it's clear here from before dealing with the text that we are going to read about an invention, okay, which is invented in a certain place. Okay, it has a lot of advantages along with one disadvantage. Let's have a look now at the reading passage. While Robocop and Iron Man can dodge bullets and crush enemies, a new suit from Japan promises its elderly users more modest powers, such as pulling carrots out of the ground without getting backaches. With its low birth rate and high life expectancy, Japan is feeling the problem of a rapidly aging and shrinking population. 2/3 of the country's farm workers, for example, are already over 30 years old. The Power Assist suit is easy to wear and aims at making life less painful for this growing number of the elderly farmers. A team developed a power-enhancing suit at the Tokyo University of Agriculture. It is planned to set up a company to start producing the futuristic outfit by the end of the year. The metal and plastic suit boasts 8 electric motors that amplify the strength of the wearer's arms and legs. It also has built-in sensors, some of which detect and react to the wearer's movement, while others respond to his or her commands through a voice recognition system. The suit will help aging farmers avoid pains and fatigue while harvesting their fruit and vegetables. If a farmer bends over to grasp a radish or a carrot, the robot suit will automatically give him firm support to the back, said one of the students who was working on the research team. A brief vocal instruction will instantly strengthen the rods along the legs, giving the power and support. The farmer needs to pull up the vegetable without effort. A future generation of the Power Assist suit may include reality goggles for displaying useful information for the farmer, such as the ripeness of the crop and whether he or she needs to take a break and rest. According to the inventors, the robo-suit can reduce the user's physical effort by 60% on average. The muscular activity needed to bend knees is reduced by half, and most of the strain is removed from working in a crouched position. During our research, we found that most farmers complained about bending and about aches in their arms, necks, and lower back, another student reported. After 15 years of research and development, the robo-suit should finally hit the Japanese market in 2015, when it will initially retail for 1 million yen, a price its makers hope to reduce by half if the device is mass-produced. There are on plans to get the suit overseas, where farm workers are generally younger. The team think there is a promising market for the suit in Japan, where people are already familiar with the idea of employing robots in industry. Now, after reading the text, let's go back to our questions. Let me remind you of the question. From A, B, and C, from B, A, C, and D, choose the correct answer. What is the best title for the passage? So it's clear that we are talking about something specific. Is it the power assist suit, or Japanese agricultural market, or the Robocom and the Iron Man, or Tokyo University of Agriculture? You can remember here that all these words or all these sentences or maybe phrases are mentioned in the passage, but we need only one answer. Think about it, please. So it's clear that our reading comprehension passage is about the power assist suit. Now, in order to make sure that our answer is correct, let's justify them. This is a piece of information that may support us, a new suit, and then we have the power assist suit, the power assisting suit. Okay? Now, our answer is correct. Let's move now to the following question. What is the synonym of shrinking in paragraph 1? Is it growing, or pulling, or decreasing, or increasing? Even if you don't know the word, you can understand the meaning of the word through context. Now, if you go back to the text, you will make sure that the synonym of shrinking is decreasing. Let's now try to check our answer. With its low birth rate and high life expectancy, okay, now this is considered a problem in Japan. Is feeing the problem of rapidly aging. So we have two problems, low birth rate and high life expectancy. So the word shrinking must have a negative connotation for the Japanese society. Okay? So shrinking here means decreasing. Okay? Why? Because we have 4 different problems that the Japanese society is suffering from. Let's move now to the following question. What does the word there in paragraph 3 refer to? If you go back to the paragraph, you will find the answer. So there refers to the farmers. Let's justify our answer or check our answer to make sure that it's correct. The suit will help aging farmers avoid pains and fatigue while harvesting their fruit. So the verb to harvest can only be made by a human being, and here we have farmers. So our answer is correct. Now let's move to the last question in multiple choice. Where has the original idea of the invention come from? Okay, so the Japanese are trying to invent something which is an outcome of a problem, for example, to solve a certain number of problems. Of course, the idea comes from finding solutions for aging farmers, which is a very big problem in the Japanese society. Let's check our answer. With its low birth rate and high life expectancy, Japan is feeling the problem of rapidly aging and shrinking population. So this is considered a problem. Another justification. During our research, we found that most farmers complained about bending and about aches That's why they are trying to invent a machine. Let's move now to answering productive questions. Again, you have to stick to your reading passage. The first question is the following. What are the components of the new invention, which is the suit? The answer is the following. The new invention is made of iron and plastic. It consists or contains 8 electric motors, built-in sensors, and a voice recognition system. Now let's go back to the passage to make sure that our answer is correct. So these are the components. It is made of or made up of metal and plastic, consisting electric motors. It has built-in sensors and the voice recognition system. So our answer is correct. What kind of health problems will the new invention solve, which is the main factor or the main cause of inventing this suit? The problems are the new invention will help the elderly farmers get rid of aches in their arms, necks, and lower backs. Why? Because as it is mentioned in the reading comprehension, most of the farmers in Japan are of old age. Let's check our answer. So they complain about bending and about aches in their arms, necks, and lower back, which is correct. What is the only disadvantage of the new invention? We have only one disadvantage. The answer is the only disadvantage of the new invention is that, or its high price. Why? Because it costs 1 million yen, which is extremely expensive. Let's check our answer. Okay, so when it will initially retail for 1 million yen, which is extremely expensive. Now that we are done with the question of reading comprehension, let's move now to summary making. You are going to summarize 1 paragraph or 2 paragraphs in the reading comprehension. This is the question. Read paragraphs 1 and 2, and in 4 sentences of your own, write about the 4 advantages of the new invention. You are not allowed to copy the exact words from the reading comprehension, so you have to invent or you have to give information, or you have to stick to the same information by trying to transform or paraphrase the sentences in the passage. Now, these are the paragraphs. 2/3 of the country's farm workers, for example, are already over 60 years old. The power assist suit is easy to wear, so this is one advantage, and aims at making life less painful, which is another advantage for this growing number of elderly farmers. A team developed the power-enhancing suit at the Tokyo University of Agriculture. It's planned to set up a company to start the metal and plastic suit, boasts 8 electric motors that amplify the strength of the wearer's arms and legs, which is another advantage. It also has built-in sensors, some of which detect and react to the wearer's movement, while others respond to his or her commands through a voice recognition system. Now we have another, or the 4th advantage, which is the following. The suit will help aging farmers avoid pains and fatigue while harvesting their fruit and vegetables. What you have to do now, you have to focus on these pieces of information and try to, for example, give them headlines, for example, or titles. So it's easy to wear. We are speaking about practicality of the invention. It's extremely practical. Why? Because it is easy to wear. Then we'll talk about the medical importance of this invention because it will deviate or lessen pains. Then we'll talk about how this invention can help farmers. And the last part is how this invention can, for example, make the harvesting activity enjoyable. Now, this is my suggestion. And here we have to link the 4 sentences with linkers or with cohesive devices to build a kind of cohesion in your paragraph. The power assist suit is very practical, as it is very easy to wear. It is also a good medical solution for elderly farmers. In addition, it increases the strength of the arms and legs while collecting fruits. Moreover, it makes the harvesting experience very enjoyable, as aging farmers will no longer suffer from tiredness. This is my own suggestion, and you may, of course, write something different from this. Now let's move now to the last part of our revision, which is translation. As I have already said, we are going to deal with two kinds of translation. The first one is from English to Arabic. This question is allotted 6 marks. So let's have a look at the paragraph. By the way, the paragraph is taken from the reading comprehension. This is the paragraph that we are going to translate. The metal and plastic suit boasts 8 electric motors that amplify the strength of the wearer's arm and legs. Here we have to look for maybe some unfamiliar words or some difficult words, but you can manage to translate them through context. For example, the word amplify can be translated into yuqawwi, for example. Okay? It also has built-in sensors. Of course, the word sensor is familiar to you because you have already seen it in grade 10. So it can be, for example, translated into حساسات داخلية التصميم. So, some of which detect and react to the wearer's movement. Detect here means يكشف. While others respond to his or her commands through a voice recognition system. Commands here means الأوامر. And a voice recognition system can be translated into نظام التعرف على الصوت. The suit will help aging farmers avoid pains and fatigue while harvesting. Verb to harvest, which means to collect your fruit, which means عملية الجني, their fruit and vegetables. Okay? Now after that, we have to translate the whole paragraph, but try to avoid word-to-word translation because the syntax of the English language is completely different from that of Arabic language. This is my translation. تحتوي البذلة المعدنية والبلاستيكية على 8 محركات كهربائية تزيد من قوة ذراعي وساقي مرتديها، كما تتضمن حساسات داخلية التصميم يقوم بعضها بكشف حركة مرتدي البذلة والتفاعل معها، بينما تقوم أجهزة أخرى بالاستجابة لأوامر مرتديها من خلال نظام يعمل بالتعرف على الصوت. ستساعد هذه البذلة المزارعين المسنين على تفادي الآلام والتعب الناتج عن جني الثمار والخضروات. As I have already said, this is only my trial. You can give other form of translation that may be better than this one. Now let's move to the final part of our revision today, which is translating Arabic sentences into English. And by the way, these sentences, the English sentences, are taken from your textbook. So that's why we always advise our students to learn or to memorize the set book questions, because they may be of they may give help to you in dealing with translation. We are going to translate something related to Beit Ludan. This is the first sentence that you have to translate from Arabic to English language. تعكس إدارة مشروع بيت لوذان تاريخ الموقع والتغييرات التي طرأت عليه عبر الزمن. Some words that need to be translated aside. The word تعكس, it may be translated into reflect. إدارة, it can be translated into directorship. And the word طرأت, which can be translated into occurred. Why? Because it is used in the past. Now this is my translation. The directorship of Beit Ludan project reflects the history of the site and the changes that have occurred over time. This is exactly the sentence which is taken from your textbook. Now let's move to something else. It's something related to مدينة الحرير or Silk City. إن تصميم مدينة الحرير ببساطة ليست مجرد إنشاء أماكن جديدة للسكن بقدر ما هو إنشاء مساحة بفن معماري يقود إلى الرضا والسعادة. Again, you have to focus on some unfamiliar words and try to understand their context from or their meaning from the context of the sentence. For example, the word تصميم can be translated into design. Then we have the word إنشاء. It can be translated into creating. Then we have مساحة بفن معماري, which can be translated into architectural space. And the last one, or maybe before the last, الرضا, it can be translated into contentment. And the last word is السعادة. It can be welfare or, for example, the well-being. I'm sticking to the exact words that occurred in the textbook. This is my translation. The design of the Silk City is not simply about creating new living places, but creating an agricultural space that induces contentment and well-being. At this point, our lesson is over. I have dealt today with Module 3. I have dealt with the 3 units which will be included in your exam, in your third period exam, which are Units 7, 8, and 9. I have revised with you all the items that you have dealt with in class with your teachers. I hope that you have benefited from my lesson today. I wish you good luck in your future endeavors, and thank you for watching.